The day I found my deaf son bleeding at school and fought back as a prosecutor. Have you ever walked into a room and felt the world tilt beneath your feet? That's what happened to me one crisp October afternoon when I stepped into my son's school and saw him trembling, his small hand wrapped in a blood-soaked cloth, while the woman responsible stood there, unapologetic. My name is Walter Hayes. I'm 61, a widower, a father, and oh few knew it, Athena state prosecutor with 32 years of experience. My son, Caleb, is 9, profoundly deaf, and the gentlest soul you'll ever meet. He loves sketching superheroes and folding paper cranes. But that day, someone tried to crush his spirit. This is the story of how I fought back, not just for Caleb, but for every child who's ever been silenced. Would you stay quiet if someone hurt your child and called it discipline? Or would you make them pay? Stick with me, because what happened next will leave you speechless. I've lived a quiet life in Maple Grove, a tidy suburb outside Richmond, Virginia. After my wife, Ellen, passed from leukemia 5 years ago, it was just me and Caleb. We adopted him at 52, a tiny boy left at a hospital with no name, no family, just a note about his deafness. His first sign to me was home, his little fingers shaping a roof over his heart. That moment made me more than a lawyer. I became his protector. Caleb's world is silent, but he sees colors others miss. He draws superheroes with capes that soar and leaves notes in my lunchbox saying, "You're my hero, Dad." We moved to Maple Grove for its top-rated schools and safe streets, joining a neighborhood with a homeowners association that promised community. But I learned fast that promises can hide poison. From the start, Margaret Voss, the HOA president and acting vice principal at Caleb's school, set my nerves on edge. She was all sharp edges, gray hair in a tight bun, lipstick like a warning sign, always in blazers that screamed authority. She patrolled our cul-de-sacs like a warden, citing people for untrimmed hedges or kids' chalk drawings. At school, she was worse. She never called Caleb by his name, just that deaf boy. Once, at pickup, she leaned in and said, "You should look into special schools for him." When I said his name was Caleb, she smirked. Names are for kids who hear. I bit my tongue, years in court teaching me to pick my battles. But her words stuck like splinters. Caleb's drawings started showing a woman with a sour face and crossed arms. He signed, "Mean lady," loud hands. I thought it was a teacher he clashed with. I didn't know she'd soon draw blood. Margaret's HOA letters began arriving, complaints about my mailbox's faded paint or a bike left in the driveway. At a school meeting, she ranted about disruptive special needs kids, her eyes locking on Caleb as he sketched quietly. It wasn't policy, it was personal. She saw my son as a flaw in her perfect world. I later learned she'd blocked a ramp for disabled students, calling it an eyesore, and banned service dogs as hazards. Her control wasn't just strict, it was cruel. That Thursday, my phone buzzed at 1 p.m. while I was reviewing a fraud case. "Mr. Hayes, come to the school now. There's been an incident with Caleb." No details. My heart raced as I sped across town, picturing a fall or a fight. But nothing prepared me for what I saw. In a dim classroom, Caleb sat alone, pale, shaking, his hand wrapped in a dripping towel. Blood pooled on the floor. Rusty garden shears lay nearby. Margaret stood over him, arms folded, cool as ice. "He was defiant," she said. I had to act. Defiant? My boy, who hugs strangers and feeds squirrels. I demanded, "What happened to his hand?" She didn't blink. He reached for a locked drawer. I used the shears to stop him. I crouched beside Caleb. 2 fingers were slashed to the bone. One tip hung by a thread. He tried to sign but couldn't, his eyes wide with fear. "You cut him," I roared. She shrugged. "I ensured safety. He's a risk." "A risk?" "He's 9 and deaf." Something snapped. I pulled my state prosecutor's badge from my coat. "Margaret Voss, I'm Walter Hayes, and you just assaulted my son with a weapon on school grounds." Her face paled. "A teacher," Sarah Klein, burst in, horrified. "I saw it," she whispered. "She told me to leave, but I came back. Caleb was just reaching for his sketchbook." Margaret hissed, "You were supposed to stay out." Sarah stood firm. "Not anymore." I carried Caleb out, ignoring the office's paperwork demands, and rushed him to the ER. Surgeons saved most of his hand, but one fingertip was gone. That night, as he slept under morphine, I vowed Margaret would pay. By morning, I called Detective Tom Reese, a friend. "Get a warrant," I said. "We've got witnesses." He didn't hesitate. "Let's make this right." I went into prosecutor mode. Sarah's notarized statement detailed Margaret ordering her out, then attacking Caleb for grabbing his sketchbook, not a dangerous object. I called my parents. One said Margaret banned her autistic son from recess. Another's daughter was denied her seizure meds. Margaret's facade cracked. Within 48 hours, we charged her felony child abuse, aggravated assault, and neglect of duty. Police cuffed her at home as she sputtered. "This is a mistake." Tom replied, "You cut a kid with shears. No mistake." The story exploded local news, ex-posts, neighborhood blogs. HOA tyrant slashes deaf boy trended. Parents shared their own Margaret horror stories. At the school board hearing, I laid it all bare. Her discriminatory remarks, HOA bullying, Sarah's testimony, and Caleb's medical report. A board member whispered, "Why didn't anyone speak up?" I answered, "Fear silences good people." Not anymore. They fired Margaret unanimously. The HOA ousted her days later. In court, Margaret looked deflated, her blazer swapped for an orange jumpsuit. She pleaded not guilty, claiming self-defense. But Sarah's testimony, Caleb's drawings of a claw lady, and photos of his mangled hand crushed her lies. In my closing, I said, "This isn't one mistake. It's years of cruelty masked as order." Margaret Voss thought she could silence a boy who already lives in silence. But justice hears every voice. The jury took 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. At sentencing, I spoke as a father. "Your Honor, Margaret didn't just cut Caleb's hand, she cut his trust, his safety. Let her sentence show that no child is expendable." The judge gave her 10 years, no parole for 6. As she was led away, her bun unraveling, I felt no joy, just resolve. Justice wasn't revenge, it was truth winning. Maple Grove changed. Neighbors apologized for staying silent, admitting Margaret's fines and glare scared them. A mom, Lisa Carter, thanked me, saying Margaret barred her epileptic daughter from choir. We formed a support group for special needs families. Sarah taught sign language at the park. Caleb's hospital sketches funded a sensory playground. A sign went up at the school, "Every child belongs." We framed it by the entrance. Caleb's hand healed, though 2 fingers are stiff. But his spirit? Unbreakable. On his first day back, he drew himself as Captain Caleb, cape flying. For his 10th birthday, he wanted a superhero cake and new pencils. He drew our house with hands cradling kids, writing, "Safe. Seen. Loved." I cried, knowing he was thriving. This fight taught me justice isn't a gavel, it's neighbors speaking up, teachers standing tall, parents refusing to bow. Margaret thought she was untouchable. She was wrong. What would you do if someone hurt your child and called it discipline? Could you stay silent, or would you fight? Share your thoughts below, especially on violence and injustice in our schools and communities. Your voice matters. Let's keep this conversation alive.